Hello everybody, it's me, it's Obli, and today I wanted to bring you the Apex talents for Frost and for Unholy. I know in a couple of past videos I did have a little speak about these, but I wanted to show you what these look like at level 90. So today you can't exactly make a level 90, you have to level 1 all the way up. So I know for a lot of people it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to see these, just straight up, just test them out. So I'm here to do that for you. So let's begin with Frost. So Frost, you have Chosen of the Frost Brood. All of these are called Chosen of the Frost Brood, but talent point number 1, Frost Wyrm's Fury deals 100% increased damage to the first enemy hits and grants you 15% increased haste. That's okay, it just makes executing your burst window a little bit better. Essentially, you just want to, it makes you want to cast Frost Wyrm's Fury at the start of your burst so you can ramp up a really quick one. However, it might not end up that way. Then you have Chosen to Frostbrood here, casting Frostwyrm's Fury forward grants 50 runic power, just kind of giving you a base to start a breath window. Recalling it grants 2 Killer Machine stacks. Now, the really interesting thing about recalling this is when you press Frostwyrm's Fury, you have a minute to cast it back. So you could go your entire burst window never needing the 2 Killer Machines that it provides when you recall it, and just keep it for a rainy day, you know? Basically be in the it's like a pseudo empower rune weapon, which I think is nuts. Like I thought it would be like 10 seconds, something like that, but it's a long time. You have so much time to bring your Frostworm back. Just means that you can fit this in any point where you need those additional Killing Machine stacks. And then lastly, Frostworm Fury deals 100% increased damage just as a whole to everything. So after the Frostworm flies away, you may cast it again to recall it at 50% effectiveness. So it's not until you get this last point where you can actually recall it. The recalling kind of, I don't know why the recalling part of it comes in on the second point. Well, second and third point, I guess. But you can't actually bring it back until you fully complete your Apex row. Now, Frostworm Fury isn't that important until you look at Echoing Fury here. Reaper's Mark deals increased damage, fine. Casting Frostworm Fury grants 2 stacks of Exterminate with 100% first size and 100% second size effectiveness. Bruh. So now, Frost and Fury is like a massive powerhouse spell. It's really important to try and fit this in your burst. I think the game that we're going to be playing now in the beta is finding the best prime time to have Frostworm Fury. There are a few different things now that will give you killer machines within your burst window. And I mean, having these 2 additional exterminates, that's really nice. I mean, we do a quick burst, so like a season 1 burst would be something in the line of like powering weapon and then spend and then Curstone Idol burst. But you don't get exterminate anymore because we don't have the tier set. So now you would do Frost on Fury, you get the exterminates at the start of your burst, and Reaper's Might will pop off, and you get the exterminates afterwards as well. But the key, the skill I guess comes in, is how fast you can get this off, and if you can you get it off before Reaper's Might pops. Because when Reaper's Mark pops, you have 2 more exterminates, and you really don't want to overwrite these. But you can see here, Frostworm's Fury, I can still call it back. I still have 26 seconds before I call this back. So let's spend these sides or Killer Machines. I call it back, and I get an exterminate and 2 Killer Machine stacks. Heavy. One thing I'm not the biggest fan of is the fact that recalling it is on the global cooldown, and I think that doesn't feel great. It should kind of be like Empowering Weapon where it's on like the half DCD. I feel like that would just make more sense. I mean, what you could do, you could even bring it back, lining up to your next pillar window, so that when you cast Reaper and Pillar, you have these 2 additional Killer Machine stacks and these 2 additional, 1 exterminate. So you can go into this with a bit more damage because, as you can see here, again, no exterminates anymore. So there's a little bit of damage has gone from our 45-second burst because we don't have the tier set anymore. But I think that's nuts. I mean, look at this. This Remorseless Winter graphic is so nice. I think that absolutely owns. But yeah, the Apex really does change up our burst. I think realistically, because Reaper's Mark is only stacking to 40, it stacks super fast. I can't see anywhere now that increases the time because before with the set, it made it go up to 55. But as of the beta, obviously the sets don't work. So now Reaper's Mark does explode very, very quickly. I think realistically they should just make Reaper's Mark baseline at 55. It would be a buff to Reaper's Mark, yes, but to try and fit this all in, let's try that again. So let's get this Empowering Weapon to come back. To try and fit Frostworm's Fury in is pretty difficult. I mean, let's just go. So, empower, spend, and now let's do a Curse Stone Idol. Burst, Frost Wyrm. Get that. Get that. Oh, you see how that is so close, and you just really don't get. You really don't get the Bone Grinder stacks as well because it goes so fast. So it's going to take a little bit of just sort of pre-planning now. I think you're going to have to start spending Killer Machines before you go into your burst window in order to get a Bone Grinder proccing while all this burst is happening. It's going to be difficult, but it's definitely going to. I'm sure it'll be doable with some practice. It's definitely be there, but very strong Apex talent, I would say. So with that in mind, let's see if I can just go into Unholy now. Okay. So with Unholy, it's still tied into a 1.5 minute burst. But Unholy suffers from its 45-second, having basically no damage within it. But let's talk about Forbidden Knowledge. Army of the Dead siphons the power of the Fallen, transforming Death Coil and Epidemic into Necrotic Coil and Graveyard for 15 seconds. So what Necrotic Coil does is it just shoots a volley. I'll show you in a second. Shoots a volley, and then Graveyard essentially is just Epidemic but slightly stronger. Graveyard and Necrotic Volley kind of, at about 5 targets, they do similar damage, but it's under 5 targets, Coil does a ridiculous amount of damage, and then above 5 targets, it becomes Epidemic. But let's read through them again. Necrotic Coil, unleash a vortex of necrotic energy and bone, dealing some damage. Does a lot of damage. The Shadow Strike damage is actually fat. And then in the Graveyard, the dead erupt beneath all foes with Virulent Plague, dealing 853 shadow damage and 341 shadow damage to enemies nearby. Basically just Epidemic. Now, Army of the Dead grants 40 runic power and causes your next 2 Scourge Strikes to summon a Lesser Ghoul. Obviously, this is 2 points in, so with 1 point it would be 20 runic power and 1 Scourge Strike, but we will be maxing this out. And then the last point, when you putrefy a Lesser Ghoul or summon one with Scourge Strike, the duration of Forbidden Knowledge is increased by a second. So there will be times during your burst where you're going to want to cast other things. So you're going to want to cast Putrefy. You're going to want to cast Scourge Strike to summon those ghouls. Basically, what that last point does is nullify the fact that you're wasting a global inside your Forbidden Knowledge window to do that, to summon those, which I think is good. It just means that the full duration that you get, 15 seconds, you kind of get it. Obviously, give or take like a second, but it just means that if you have to cast Putrefy or you have to cast Scourge Strike, which you want to do, you're not punished so hard. So this is what it looks like. So we'll go in, we'll disease the targets, we'll Festering Scythe them, and then you'll go in with Curse Stone Idol, and then a full burst, and now just, let's get some of those out, let's get Petrify out, Putrefy even, Scourge Strike, and then let's just Scourge Strike again to summon another ghoul, and now we're just coiling. When we don't have any coils left, summon that Pestilence, put the dots back on with Putrefy, coil again. Now, it lasts quite a long time. Realistically, you kind of just want to get that entire thing spent before you then go on to Festering Scythe again. But it works out quite nicely because the buff runs out basically 1 global before your Forbidden Knowledge does. But it feels good. You are just pumping out these Necrotic Coils and just firing in a line, just like Glacial Advance, and it really does feel good. So I think for Unholy, you're in a very nice spot. It just works. There's no real, like, the play in this is how many targets are there. That's it really, because you're just going to be doing more damage. There's no real proper fickle play. It's just like summoning the ghouls. Do you summon it before you start doing your volley? Do you kind of weave it in? Realistically, you're going to weave it in because you do benefit from weaving spenders and rune spenders and runic spenders together. So it kind of just, you get this really big point, which is your first point, and then you have these 2 points here, which is kind of, this one is like nullifies the punishment of having to cast something else when realistically all you want to cast is Necrotic Coil. So the difference really between Unholy and Frost is that Unholy starts with a very strong point, and it's very easy to wrap your head around. You're not really changing too much. The trouble with Frost is you get so much from Frost and Fury. Where do you spend it all? When do you spend Frost and Fury? When do you recall it? A lot of it is just going to need a lot of testing, but the Apex talents are pretty good, and they do make the spec feel a lot better. Unholy is very undertuned at the moment, but when you do have this 1.5 minute burst, you're flying. and it does feel great. And for Frost at the moment, you always have damage, pretty much. You're always doing very decent damage. I mean, you're not going to be doing your 1.5 minute cooldown damage, but you are doing decent damage nonetheless. And then with Frost and Fury involved, it's crazy burst, absolute crazy burst. But yeah, so that's the Apex talents. What do you guys think of them? I think they're pretty cool. I'm excited to try them out a bit more, test them in dungeons. Can't wait for the details meter or the damage meter so I can kind of see it a bit more in real time. I'm logging things at the moment, but Christ, it is hard. It's not easy to do those logins. They don't always work as much as they should, but I'm excited, and I'm interested to see how the tier sets work with them as well. But leave a like, subscribe if you want to stay up to date with more Death Knight news, and I love you all so much. Peace. Bye.